One of the things that I forgot to tell you on Monday is what you would be doing today for your asynchronous assignment. I have not finished grading your tests yet. And the reason for that is because I found that on the short answer question where you had to write the scenario for the position time graph, that many of you didn't read the questions well enough, or maybe you just didn't understand the directions well enough. And so I'm going to give you a redo on that short answer question. It's a different question, and there are a bunch of questions that will be randomly selected for you, so everybody will have different questions. But I want to go through those directions with you really quickly. So first of all, to get to that, if you go over to upcoming under Wednesday, it says Physics Chapter 2, Position Time, Short Answer Redo. And when you open that, you will see that the first thing that shows up, and this does not have to be done in lockdown, but the first thing that shows up are the equations for velocity and for change in position and change in time. And then there's also a calculator. And then you'll have a question, and the question will have a graph. And I'm not going to show the graph right now because I'm just concerned about the directions. So the situation is similar. You will have motion recorded for 8 minutes on a position time graph, and you're supposed to write a realistic scenario that matches the position time graph. And most of you wrote an appropriate scenario. What you didn't do was include some of the details that I asked for. So the first thing is I'm going to ask you to give me a location and position in meters for the starting point. So tell me where you're starting from using the y-axis. And then for each segment of the trip, I want you to include 3 things. Your location and position in meters. In other words, where does it line up on the y-axis? That's the first thing. Secondly, what your velocity is for the segment. And that's going to be in meters per second, along with a direction. So you're going to tell me whether it's positive, negative, or if it happens to be 0, then that's irrelevant. And then also the reason your velocity changes. So I started at the park. I walked very slowly toward my mom's house, and my velocity was 10 meters per second, and in the positive direction. And the reason I decided to walk to my mom's house from that original location was because, okay, so you get the idea. To make it a little bit easier to recognize those segments, I made them different colors. So here's your starting point. This is the first segment, second segment, third segment. So tell me your destination and the position, your velocity in meters per second, and the reason that your velocity changes. So we'll assume that you're starting from a stop or from a resting position. And then write a title for the graph based on your scenario. Okay. So I'm going to set the timer for this for 15 minutes. And what I will do is grade this first, and then I'll compare it to what you wrote in the test, and whichever one gives you the higher number of points, that's the number of points that I will enter. When you're done with this, you'll also notice on the agenda that you should be reading and taking notes over Chapter 3.1 on acceleration. And as soon as you feel like you understand the directions, you are free to leave the meeting today.